Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of
Yeah,
Love and Business.
live.
I need you guys to do me a favor. I need you to hashtag live if you're joining us live. If you happen to catch the replay, I need you to hashtag replay, but let us know where you're watching from tonight. We're super excited.
Yep. Jacksonville, DMV, Columbia,
Yes.
South Carolina. I see you.
Absolutely. So we, as people are coming in, we want to say thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
Again, we're Crystal and Lamorne Robinson. We're here to help you to dominate in both love and business. So if you and your spouse are ready to cultivate a healthy mindset for business partnerships, or you need to work on communication skills and develop your strategies for long-term success and legacy building, this is going to be the community for you. So we're glad that you joined us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The objective is to create a community of like minded bosses, right? To help dominate and thrive. Through raising our family and creating a number of successful businesses, as we continue to create those, we've learned a lot. We've gained a lot of knowledge and through those experiences. And it's our objective to share and grow in a like minded community. So we're here to lay out the blueprint for where we are and what we know, and we want to help grow. Let's
Absolutely.
go.
Yes. So we're excited that we get a chance to be solo tonight.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
we've
yeah. I always like the opportunity to be
yeah.
solo.
Yeah, well, we're not that solo.
Yeah,
We are. We have a live
yeah,
audience. And speaking of live audience, our daughters, Caitlin and Kirsten, are
yeah,
watching
yeah,
tonight
yeah, yeah,
live
yeah.
from our master
Mm-hmm. Whoop,
bedroom.
whoop, whoop, whoop.
And we told them that we would give them a shout out at the very beginning of this episode. So I'm sure they are grinning large as they are
Absolutely.
enjoying our king
Light
size
up the
bed.
hearts for our girls. Light up the hearts for our
Yes,
girls.
please
Caitlin
shoot
and
some
Kirsten.
hearts
Make them feel
in the
special,
chat for
please.
Caitlin and Kirsten. They're watching us here, so this is definitely going to be a nice and clean, family-friendly episode. We found out that they were tuned into last week's episode, and
Yeah, a few unnecessary questions may have arisen.
yeah. Nonetheless, it was a great episode last week with the Williams, and this week we decided that we were going to have a conversation about something that we typically get a lot of questions about.
Yep.
So before we get dived into today's topic, we're going to try our best to be very engaged in the comment section today. And our Chrissy, shout out to Chrissy, who's behind the scenes and helping us. She's going to be pulling some questions. So as we talk tonight and have a little dialogue, we have a couple of notes. This is new for us. We typically just go off the cuff, but we're gonna try to do notes tonight. We're gonna see how that works.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Hey, and if you are if you're looking to produce something, produce a show, your next big event, please. The Creative Meal is who
Absolutely.
is absolutely an integral part of what we do.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to necessarily do it,
We
especially
wouldn't
to
have
this
started
level
it without
without
it.
it.
Yeah.
So, hey, the Creative Meal is where it's at. We'll drop the info in the chat, but
Yes.
please, by all means, if you're looking to take your business or your production to the next level, the Creative Meal is the place to be.
Absolutely. So right before we jump into this topic, I need everybody to hit that share button because I don't think I've seen it yet. So I need you to share it with all your friends so we can get a good group of people in here to participate with us today because we're gonna engage you, and so we want to make sure that you're asking questions, and hopefully we can answer some questions that we typically get a lot. But if you didn't see from some of our posts earlier this week, we're going to be talking about maintaining healthy boundaries. Okay. We want to figure out how we can balance this professional life and personal life. As you've probably heard us say before, we don't necessarily try to figure out how to make everything even across the board. But I do think that we do a decent job, I guess, at this point of, setting some boundaries in both our relationship as husband and wife, and then our partnership as co business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna share
and as an employer and an employee. No,
yeah, that because he's my boss,
Yeah.
and so yes, we do have that as well. So again, welcome to tonight's episode. So let's get into it. Just a couple of notes here. We're going to go through some points. So you probably are going to want to have out a notepad and a pencil because, again, we got some detailed notes and we're going to try our best to stick to them. So check this out. Maintaining healthy boundaries when you're in business with your spouse can be especially challenging because your personal and professional lives are so intertwined. And of course, Lamorne and I, we have multiple businesses together. But in addition to that, obviously we have two beautiful young girls. And then, of course, we're married. And so there's a lot of pieces and parts to that. Sometimes, in the beginning stages, I think it was a lot of bumping heads because we had so much going on. But
it's totally different from your typical 9 to 5, right? If you don't like your work team, something like that, at some point you're going to be away from them. You're going to be, clocking out. You're going to be going home for the day, and you can talk about them to your family at the dinner table.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different when
it's a lot different when you sleep with the same people you work with.
The same people that's getting on your nerves at work sit at the kitchen table with you too, right? So I think it is, it's super important to be able to try to clear up as much murky water as you possibly can. I don't think there's a way that you can navigate all of it. Let me be frank about that.
Right.
I don't think there's a way that you can have no pushback or no, conflict in there somewhere. But how do you, manage it, maintain it, and minimize it? I think is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So the first thing we're going to dive into is setting clear roles and responsibilities. So let's put that in the chat. The first thing we need to do is set clear roles and responsibilities. And I'll be honest with you, that was one of the hardest things in the initial parts of being in business together for us to do. We didn't set roles and responsibilities. We just kind of jumped off into some shark infested water and started working. And that did not work well for us at all, actually.
Yeah. Well, what we did, in my opinion, was we allowed society to kind of dictate what roles that we should play, right? And when I say that, it's more like a gender role type deal, right? Hey, you're the man, this is what you do. You're the woman, this is what you do, right? And that's not necessarily always a clear-cut solution to what that is. And I see a lot of relationships where as the man, you really just don't make good decisions. or you don't make rational decisions or it's, or whatever, right? But it's okay to, if your wife is strong at that, or if your partner is strong at that, to allow them to kind of lead that charge. That doesn't mean that you're docile. That doesn't mean that you're passive. It just means, hey, this is the role, this is what's best for our partnership. This is what's best to get us from point A to point B.
But in our relationship though, I don't, so we never talked about, like household, roles and responsibilities, but I think we just both did what, our skill sets were, or what worked well for us. Like for instance, I can probably count on my hand, how many times in a year that I would iron clothes, right? Like Lamorne is way better at it than me. As a matter of fact, I could care less whether I'm wrinkled or not. But Lamorne, he is really, really good at ironing.
Now, she'll go out wrinkled as a catfish.
I surely will, but you'll be proud of me because I ironed this shirt today by myself.
Hey, Rob, you're absolutely right. Communication is vital. She ironed that shirt.
I ironed that shirt by myself.
Listen, she'll go out wrinkled as a catfish, y'all.
And
I'm like, you're not about to go out and then somebody be like, oh, that's Lamorne's wife, like, oh,
look, I don't care, man. No. I'm like, is it clean? It smell good? I'm wearing it. But Lamorne has been ironing for me literally, I'm talking like over a decade, and that's just not my thing. But I know in some households that probably is, a thing, where they may consider, okay, well, the women, should iron or whatever. But he's been ironing for us for the longest. But I'm appreciative of that 100%. But we're okay, with having that, that setup, because I can also count on my hand how many times Lamorne has actually cooked in the kitchen. Now he could cook on the grill all day, every day, but I'm the one that cooks, the majority of the meals for the family. We just decided that was, probably a better option for our palate, because he's good on the grill, but not on them pots. Okay.
Yeah. I cooked some pancakes one time that looked like crepes. They was so thin. The girls was
the kids told me about them pancakes when I got back home. They was like, please don't let Dad cook for us.
They still taste good.
But in the business though, this is where we had the biggest issue. is when we started working together in business, we didn't set clear roles and responsibilities like at all. And I had an assumption because Lemoyne had, excelled so well in, corporate America that he had some skill sets, or I thought he had some skill sets.
I do have some skill sets.
You do, but you didn't have the ones that I thought you had.
Okay, now let's be clear. Let's be clear. Yeah.
You didn't have the ones that I thought you had. And so there was some stuff that, I'm thinking he can handle, and he really couldn't, not on a consistent basis, right? Like he could do it, but it wasn't necessarily going to be done right all the time or done at all, right? And so that was a major pain point for us.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was a source of a lot of frustration for Crystal because she felt like, hey, I'm not your secretary. This is not you at the bank, and you don't have assistants around.
He really did think I was his secretary, though. I promise. He would just send stuff over there and was like, hey, can you, take a look at this? And I'm like, did you look at it first? Because I don't know. But what I realized over time is that he was accustomed to sending stuff to his coworkers, right, that were women, and they would just do it like without question. And for me, I'm thinking, well, you work here too. What you sending me this for? I got stuff to do. But he was handing off all of his work to me
and
Stay Form.
That's the stuff that you got to do. Stuff that I said
that you send to me.
Yeah, that's the stuff you got to do.
That is nowhere near what I had signed up for. And so I'm talking about some screeching hawk type of situations because he's sending me some secretary level type of work. And I'm like, you probably gonna want to hire somebody else for that because this ain't your girl.
So in the midst of all that, right, one of the things that I think really was a pivotal moment was we took a personality profile test.
We did.
Right. And when we took that profile test, we were able to see and gain a better understanding as to why I operated like that. And I understood why it created such a source of frustration for her at the same time.
Yeah.
So because I loved her so dearly, I then started to try to develop and grow myself to understand, okay, well, this is what I need to do to make sure that she's able to function in a fluid way and not, get all discombobulated in her mind. Yeah. And Rob, you're so right. Great leaders do understand delegation.
Yes.
But she wants to be the delegator.
Absolutely, I'm the delegator. I think he had the roles confused in the beginning. He thought he was the delegator. And that's not what this was. And so after we took that assessment, we started to figure out like what we call our superpowers, and Lemoyne's level of attention to detail was just, it wasn't a thing, right, for him. And then what I realized was, for me, I was really good at making decisions and making them fast, and I could, digest information very fast. And so we were able to utilize the assessment to help us to compartmentalize the things that we should be doing for the business and the things that we should not be doing for the business.
Right.
Lemoyne is not really, one to do like the consistent tasks, right? Like he can be in a lane, he's great at sales, great at building customer rapport. He's the one that, how we say, you'll catch the fish, but you don't want to clean it.
No.
Yeah. And so we needed to find a way to clean the fish. Now, in business terms, what that means was Lemoyne will reel you in and bait you for the sale. But once he makes the sale, then the paperwork that comes with closing out the sale, even taking the payment, somebody else needs to do that.
Somebody else to do that.
And I wasn't realizing it because I'm like, we're getting all these leads in, but it was like they just going to the wayside. I'm like, did you follow up with such and such? Or especially in the insurance world, there was so much paperwork, right? So much detail behind the sale. And so what we had to do was, hire to our non-talents, right? We needed to find people that were okay with doing the routine task of doing the paperwork because I didn't like doing it either, right? So we understood this is something that neither one of us wants to do. How can we handle that? So we needed to hire to that non-talent that we had to make sure that those gaps were being met in our businesses and that we wasn't bumping heads from messed up responsibilities.
Right. And that was so worth the money. Yeah. Right. So I know a lot of small businesses, you may look at it and say, man, I can't really afford to hire someone, whether even if it's part-time or if it is a virtual assistant or anything like that, right? That can do those mundane tasks. listen, your marriage or your partnership is worth it.
Yeah.
Right. Spend that money to make sure that your spouse is not flustered by your lack of. Right. If it's one thing to have a frustration because we're trying to grow the business and it's a little bit harder, but it's another when you're the source of a frustration.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that once we understood what we were both good at and what we weren't good at and what we didn't want to do, because it's not that I'm not good at the documentation part, but I knew that I did not want to do it for long periods of time. Like, I'm not one that enjoys like routine and mundane tasks. I am a very consistent person though. So I would be doing it, but I would be doing it frustrated.
Grudgingly.
Yeah, very grudgingly. Right. Because I knew we needed to close those sales. And so I would strongly suggest not only do you set those roles and responsibilities, as it relates to what it is that you have a superpower in, but even if you're really good at it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it, especially if it's going to drain you, long term. So that was number one. We're going to set clear roles and responsibilities.
And we've been able to help other couples with that as well, with that profile, with the personality profile, to be able to kind of really dissect that so that you understand what that really looks like, how to speak the language of your partner.
Yep. And so number two is in order to maintain healthy boundaries, we're going to need to establish a dedicated work area.
Yeah.
Now, if you work from home with your spouse, that's never, necessarily been ideal. But in our first brick and mortar business at Lemoyne State Farm office, we did have a designated work area, but we didn't set any boundaries about the work areas that we had. And so Lemoyne spent a good bit of his time inside of my designated work area. So I'm working and he's sitting at my desk in front of me talking to me.
Because I done bring the sale in now. She just need to go ahead
and waiting on me to clean it up.
Yeah, I done done my part.
But I think that if we would have set the tone for that, you laughing because you remember how much work you did not do when you was in my office.
I'm not in denial. I am, but establishing a dedicated work area does a few things, right? Mm-hmm. It helps you basically to create a workspace that is conducive to work. Mm-hmm. And then when you're not in that space, hey, now it's family time, or it is, hey, this is kind of out of bounds. Don't talk to me when I'm in the tub about, something that just happened at work, right? That, whatever it may be, right? So being able to say, hey, look, this is the line. This is kind of where we are when I'm in my creative space, and on the vice versa is true as well. When I'm in my work zone, don't come to me, talking about, what we eating, asking one of them questions just to kind of check the temperature, be like, hey, you seen the sky today? He does that. We might need to talk about that some kind of way. I don't know if that's in one of the points, but we may need to get just walk in and be like, it's supposed to rain today, don't it? Like, what does that got to do with anything? Like, you just kind of want to check the temperature.
What? I'm glad you brought that up. Let's digress over into that. We can catch that rabbit hole.
All right.
No, I want to talk about it because for us in the beginning stages, because we were so new at working together in this capacity, we didn't necessarily separate home issues from work. Right?
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I didn't. I said we.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got you. I didn't know.
So what we?
South of France here. I got
it's
you.
We.
I got you. Yeah.
So, because the temperature thing, what I'm saying, if we at the office and you checking the temperature, meaning you trying to figure out if I'm good, I'm like, I'm working. But we're not about to talk about what we was talking about before we got here.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because if you working in a professional environment, right? Like we got this office, right? This is the office with employees in there and customers can come in there. We shouldn't be talking about, our personal issues or spats or what have you inside of the business. And I know it goes without, it should go without saying, but I'm almost certain that couples that are in business together, these spats can carry from home, right, to the workspace. And I think it's super important that, once you cross over into that threshold, you have to remain professional. Thank goodness, what I'm saying, me and Lemoyne didn't have any episodes, in the office to that degree. But it was some days where I didn't want to talk to him and he didn't want to talk to me. but we got to talk to each other because
Yeah.
we working together, and we got to talk to the team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, as we've matured, in business, I think it's super important to note that others that are even, considering doing that you have to set clear boundaries from jump.
Yeah. From
That
the start.
when you walk through this door, we're in business, right? We're not talking about what we was talking about. We talking about whatever happens on the other side of this wall.
And the truth be told, as you continue to grow in your communication, those moments get less and less, right? Where it's that tension that's coming in, from an issue that you're having that's outside of the business, and then you bringing it, into the business. Those get less and less because working on that communication, knowing what those lines are as it relates to those roles and responsibilities. Because once you really define those roles and responsibilities, it makes it a lot easier to work, right? Because you're not doing things grudgingly, right? You're not mad about having to do it. You're actually a little bit happier about doing it. And because it's getting done, she's happy and I'm happy that, it's getting done on the other side and, everything is well.
Absolutely. So that was number 2. I know we kind of went off in a little rabbit hole there, but I think it was important to note that,
establish a dedicated
workspace should be workspace, and not, not spaces for, personal issues. Like I think if you mentally, create that boundary to where you work when you're at work, not to say that you can't discuss personal things, but it definitely shouldn't be hot and heated, to the point where you're making your employees uncomfortable, or your customers uncomfortable, right? Like your work area is your work area.
Yeah.
So number 3, I hope y'all taking notes. If you're taking notes, you got to put number 3 in the chat. Number 3 is schedule dedicated work and personal time. Yeah. Now, this is still something that I think we are still working through.
So I really think that it's important that if it is one of those things that bothers your spouse, right? When I look at this, I say a lot of times when we're talking, it could be over dinner and we're still talking about business, right? But it's because we both want to talk about business, right? We're wanting to talk about that. But if it is a situation where, hey, your spouse just does not want to talk about that issue, you have to respect it. Like you got to give them that time. For me, especially some issues, I process things a little bit slower. I always used to say, Crystal's a Mac and I'm a PC, right? Because it's like she would just spout off stuff. And I'm like, man, look, just give me a little time to think about it. Give me 12 hours. Let me come back to you tomorrow at 8:00, right? Because I just wanted time to process it. So,
and I wanted the answer.
Yeah, she wanted exactly, but that could be a source of contention, right? Because you want me to think just the way that you're thinking, or you want me to just default to what it is that you're saying, and I hadn't processed it. But then if I process it 8 to 12 hours later and I disagree, now I come back to you and say, yeah, I don't really agree. Or if I just keep going with the flow, now that's a source of contention down the line, right?
That's good.
Those are spots that can create that bubble up, right? That little bit of an explosion that might happen on an odd moment, and you wondering why, like why you fly swatting so hard at that fly, like hey, yeah, this somebody about to get hit, or something. I don't hit nobody, but
nah, we ain't got none of that.
But yeah, but it's important to like I said, if your spouse doesn't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right. To respect that. If it's movie night, then it's movie night.
Yeah.
Let the day wash away. Whether it's a bad business day or whether it's a good business day.
Yeah.
Let the day wash away and move forward.
And I don't think that we ever had any like major problems with like work and say, personal time now here recently, because I enjoy being an entrepreneur. So a lot of times, I'm working even, when most people aren't working.
Right.
And then there came a time where I was like, I think I want to pull back a bit. And so I started setting up, times in the day where, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And then I'm not.
Spa treatments. Yeah.
Spas. Yes. But we're getting there. That's down there at number 5. So don't jump ahead.
I got you.
But you ain't got to be jello. If you want to go to the spa, you can go to the spa.
I'm just telling you what the Lord loves. True.
You can go to the spa whenever you want. But I started setting up, times where I would work, and that's just so that I wouldn't have burnout. I needed that specific time to be able to, just say, hey, this is when I'm working. And then, this is when I'm resting. And I think that that's been, super important for me, but we don't really have a major issue necessarily with if we're working past, what most people consider work hours. Most entrepreneurs don't have work hours because we're not clocking in and out, right? But I do think that it is super important. You know what?
You thinking the same thing I'm thinking?
Customer boundaries.
Oh, no,
we can talk about it.
I was sure I got a customer I'm supposed to call tonight. I don't know if I'm gonna call them now.
But here's boundaries for us. You know what? The work time boundaries. This is probably the boundary that we messed up the biggest when we first started in business, and that was not setting these work hours for our customers, right? So just because people know us and the office closed at 5, we'll get a call at 8:37 p.m. about a policy problem, right? And we didn't set no boundaries. So what would start happening was everybody that called, we would always answer the phone. As a matter of fact, we would be out doing something like family stuff or on a date or something. We would intentionally bring our State Farm laptops with us so that if something did go down, we could hit up the hotspot, right, and start writing a policy. You know what I'm saying?
And to be honest, I was operating a lot out of fear. Like I wanted to make sure that that we were successful. That was part of the grind. Like I needed to make sure that my family ate. That was Crystal had she left her job, and like we were all in on this thing together. So it was a fight or flight type moment for me. But as we've continued to develop, if you don't curtail those habits, then they'll continue to carry on.
And they carried on. I'm talking about carried on. Because what started to happen was when we did want to completely shut off, or when we were in places that we weren't there to do business, we would start getting conversations about business.
Right.
And sometimes, especially as a business owner, you just want to show up, right? Like my name is Crystal. His name is Lamorne. Sometimes we just want to show up as we are, you know what I'm saying? Like as regular people, and we don't necessarily get the opportunity to do that a lot because we didn't start off setting boundaries, right? Like we didn't tell people when we were on and when we were off. We were just always on. And so I think for us, really and truly, what that boundary piece is for as it relates to the hours is really to the customer base, right? It's not that we don't love and enjoy our customers. We're grateful for them. That's why we're in business. But the idea is that there are systems in place that we didn't utilize in the beginning stages to stop that from happening. For instance, thankfully with State Farm, when we're closed, all of our calls roll over to the customer service line. So you actually still get a live person. You just don't get Lamorne or anybody in the office. And what we didn't do in the beginning is when people called the office and they found out it was closed, they would just call his cell phone. What we should have did was say, hey, just call the office and you're going to be able to talk to someone, right? Like that's setting a boundary. Or if someone texts us about, an issue, instead of calling them back from our personal cell phone, we should have set boundaries, right? And picked up the office phone and called them.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of calling from the cell,
to start to set new boundaries for for our customer base so that we could live outside of the business world, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But we doing better.
We're doing a lot better.
I'm doing better for sure. I can't speak for Lamorne.
I mean, I still,
You still answer
some
phone.
customers.
Some customers you still answer phone. Okay. All right.
The ones that I know.
He's still working on that boundary. Okay.
I wanted to backtrack just for a second. I think it's super important. We're talking about the dedicated workspace and things like that. I think it's important that when we first started out, Crystal would stay up working to like 1, 2 in the morning,
3,
right? And that just is not my deal. That's not my deal. I'm gonna give you what I got.
He gonna get his sleep,
but that's it. And I'm really not that good if I am up, right? Because I've set up in the chair and I'm not functional, right? It's not the best version of me.
He would tell me to fall asleep.
Yeah, don't hold your spouse to the same standard. I think it doesn't have to be equal giving, but it does need to be equal sacrifice. Right. You need to be able to do something, contribute, and bring something to the table as it relates to it. It may not be the same thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be up every waking hour that they're up, because her most creative time may be at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, right? When it's quiet and just desolate, everything is just silent in the house. That may be her best time.
Yeah.
But that's not my best time because my brain is clouded with sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you know, my body is just naturally producing melatonin and it's just putting me down.
And I had to learn to respect that, you know, because initially I would get a little agitated, you know, because he wasn't staying up. But the truth of the matter is, even if he did stay up, he wouldn't be adding any value because he was tapped out. You know, like his body was saying that he was tired. Now I don't have that midnight oil situation I had however many years ago it was that I was doing that.
Yeah, I hit sleep a lot.
I don't do. Thank you. I don't do that anymore now. So, but then, you know, I think my wheels were just turning and I needed to get that stuff out, you know. So, thankfully, you know, I'm past that stage now and I'm sleeping well. Thank God. So that was number 3. Now we're on number 4. So let's put this one in the chat. Keep communication open and honest. Yeah. Ooh, child. And you know we got an F in this one.
I did for sure.
Not no more. You know what I'm saying? But we had an F.
Well, I did.
We had an F in this communication piece here. Keep communication open and honest. Make sure you put that in the chat. Number 4. Healthy relationships are built on trust and communication. When you're working with your spouse, it's especially important to be open and honest with each other about your expectations, your concerns, and your needs. My goodness. I think we failed not only in business on that one. I think in personal, like just all, you know, all across the board. For me, I don't know where it came from or how it got in there. Or I guess it's the right thing, but you know, my base level foundation is to tell the truth first. Like, I don't know any other way to talk. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's the truth, and you know, I'm not going to withhold the truth. I just don't know. I don't know any other way to be. I don't think I have like the capacity or the brain space to hold lies, right? Because it's a lot of work to have to keep remembering what you said when you said it about what. And so it's always been my default to tell the truth because it's so much easier to process the truth because it comes out fast because it's the truth. And man, did we crash and burn from
well, yeah,
from some situations because truth wasn't, you know, like I didn't establish that not at the beginning of our relationship, like anything, and definitely, you know, in business we just chose, you know, to just not even discuss, you know, stuff that should have been discussed. But I think it's super, super important that you're transparent about your communication style.
Absolutely.
Right, because I'm a very direct communicator. And Lemoyne is a very indirect communicator. And we also learned that, you know, by taking the assessment as well. And we kind of found out that our communication styles were the exact opposite. So I was communicating to him how I expected to be communicated to, and he was communicating to me how he expected to be communicated to, when it should have been the exact opposite. I should have been giving him more information and more detail in my communication, and he should have been giving me a little less detail and to the point. In the beginning stages, we were doing, I'm talking about the worst at that. That was a question. I thought we had a question. He's Rob said most men get an F in this one. You know, I'm not, well, maybe, but for me, I just know what I want, and I'm not afraid to say what it is that I want. Or if I have an opinion on something, I'm also not afraid to give that opinion. And I'm not saying my opinion to be mean to anyone or to hurt anybody's feelings. I just say, you know, what my opinion is as it is, right? Not disrespectfully or rude, but I'm going to say whatever it is that I feel. And Lemoyne, in what you say in your communication style, you're more so going to harbor the true feelings, sort through those, and then say what you thought about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to process it a little bit to make it a little more palatable for the recipient. Whereas Crystal,
I just said I'm not mean or nasty.
That's an
opinion. Gave me a blank stare.
Yeah. Okay. It's a difference between the truth and the facts, right?
But what is your truth?
That's an opinion.
Let's say it live. Let's say it live. What is your truth?
Of what?
How my you communicate?
It's direct. It cuts. It will cut. You know, and I mean, it's not. Yeah, it'll cut. Yeah. You know, and that's
is it because it's the truth? Does the truth cut?
It could be, or it could just be, you know, the fact of how blunt it may be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't, you know, I don't necessarily know, but sometimes again, I communicate to you the way I would like to be communicated to. If I say, hey, that dress isn't, I'm not gonna be like, man, you need to take that off. That look like a piece of aluminum foil, or something like that. I'm not gonna say that. I might be like, hey, what you think about this black dress you got in there? Like, what about that? I think I got a black shirt that match. Right. Let's match. I'm gonna try to, douse it up a little bit. But I will say this. Most people are dishonest because they're afraid of something. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they are probably unsure of themselves, which makes them feel like they have to build up this persona or personality or this certain situation because they're going to be judged in some way. Mm-hmm. That judgment could be fear. They could make them fearful to say what their real truth is. So if you are in a situation where somebody's dishonest, the dishonesty is not right. Let's be clear on that. It's not fair to the recipient of the dishonesty because they didn't get a chance to make the decision based on the truth. But I would challenge you to ask the question and peel back the layers to try to understand where it came from so that you can uproot it. And that way you can get rid of it once and for all instead of having to revisit that time and time again.
But I think what we learned the hard way is that we had to be able to create safe environments, as well for that to happen. And I think for us, it wasn't necessarily safe all the time, from your perspective to, say what you feel like, your truths were. And I think that, once we took the assessment and we kind of understood, each other's personality types, I would then start to dissect some of Lemoyne's communication. And then go layers deep. And then I would ask him the question that I knew I had to ask him to get the real answer. And that was some work. The communication piece for us was, I would say, probably one of the most difficult.
And it's an ongoing work. I'm not saying
absolutely,
that I'm not saying
we're much better at it, but
we're not PhD scholars at it.
No, but I started asking very root questions because I am direct and I do want the information and I want to get it, as quickly as I possibly can, right? Whereas Lemoyne may have the answer in there. He may have thought it, but he's not going to say it first. Like I always give the example and say, when Lemoyne wants to eat fried chicken, he's going to say something like, what do you think about chicken tonight? What do you think about eating fried chicken? And I'm going to say, I don't want fried chicken. When really and truly, like his truth is, I desire to eat fried chicken today. Would you like to join in on that? Because whether or not, if it was me, if I wanted fried chicken or not, I'm going to say, hey, I'm getting some chicken. You want some? If you don't, it's fine. I'm still going to eat it. Right.
And I'm more of a, hey, let's get everyone engaged, right? I'm the guy that is going to, I'll sit on the side because one person didn't get picked to play basketball, volleyball, or something like that. I'll sit on the side and say, hey, let this guy play, or let this person play, because I know I got game, right? I don't need to prove, that. I just, hey, let this person play because I don't want them to feel left out. And I do that in our relationship as well. I want to make sure that, hey, she is just as comfortable with the decision as I am. If I want chicken and then she says she want a cold sandwich, of course I'm like, man, a cold sandwich, but my stomach gonna be full. I'm okay. Let's get it.
But and this is even here recently. That's why Lemoyne said that we're still working through that. We just had a very open conversation just a few days ago, in regards to communication, because how he feels. What he just described was also creating a good bit of turmoil for us too, because he was constantly choosing what I wanted versus what he wanted, right? And his goal and objective for that was obviously to, continue to make sure that I was happy. But what was happening is it would be a buildup, because I'm always say what I want. I'm never, you know what I'm saying? I'm never not going to say it.
Let's be clear.
And so he was always taking the L and whatever, instead of saying, hey, today I want to do this. I don't know what it is that you got going on, but today I want to do this. No, he would default first to see if there was anything on the agenda for me. And it's always something on the agenda for me. Always. And so what we talked about in that conversation, this was just this was Monday. Yeah. But what we ended up, discussing there was that it's okay for him to communicate what it is that he wants. It's even okay for us to disagree. It's okay for him to have a thing and for me to have a thing. But if I don't know, if he has not openly communicated with me in honesty about what it is that he needs or wants, because I'm wired to directly tell you what it is that I want, he was gonna not get what he wanted ever, because he's never saying it. And so, we just happenstance, because I asked, I said, dude, I said, you've been a little snappy.
Yeah. And let me, because it's not a big thing, but let me give you the real life example.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to, I took the initiative to try to solve our internet issue.
Mm-hmm.
Our last correspondence on live was a little choppy at times.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, let me call the internet company, see if we can get another line dropped here, blase, blase. So I go to the store, they say, well, you need this. So I get the stuff. But in the meantime, I'm not sure if you guys have been watching on Facebook, but I picked up some toilets, right? Picked up those toilets from Home Depot over there on the back of the truck. So I needed to get them off, but I brought the router and the modem in.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal says, hey, well, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's see what we got. So,
but pause. In that moment, when I asked about that, Lemoyne actually was thinking to himself, now I really want to get all these toilets off the back of the truck. I really don't want to deal with this internet situation right now.
Yeah.
But his response to me was, okay, let's
do it, right? I wanted to get the toilets off. I wanted to spray the house down. The springtime is coming. I needed to, clean up some stuff outside, spray some weeds, just a number of things that I just wanted to do that I knew she wasn't going to do, and I wasn't going to involve her in it.
But all of that was happening in his head. And he says out loud to me, okay, let's go do the internet.
So, no, she says, let's go do the internet.
I said, and you say, okay, let's do it,
right?
Yeah.
So we get up there, and then she's doing something on her phone. And I'm like, okay, well, look.
I was handling an on-fire situation on my phone. Let's make it clear.
So, it was. So I said, so we working through this, and I was like, hey, look, just get out of the way. Let me take care of it. Right, because I'm thinking like she's
he did that very nicely. Because what he did to me was get on out the way so I can get.
So
and I'm like, what?
Yeah, she was like, where did that come from? You know what I mean?
Sending a text message.
And I'm like, hey, I got some stuff that I want to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I that's what I'm thinking in my head. I got some stuff I want to do. You're not being respectful of my time. I took away from what I wanted to do, but I only had this in my head. I never said what I wanted.
He never said it.
What was important was, hey, I wanted to, let's get the internet issue solved. I'm cool with that, but let's not tarry, as they say in church. Let's not, you know what I'm saying? Let's not, waste the time here. You texting and I'm like, man, I can be doing this because you ain't gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I wasn't gonna do the outside stuff.
Exactly.
Sure. But I'm the techie person in the house. So, I mean, what ended up happening from that conversation, the only reason why we even bringing it up is that we realized that he was harboring, his thoughts and not like verbalizing what he was feeling or, what he wanted to do or what he needed. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not even wired to look for it, And so what we ended up talking about was, hey, don't default to me. You're important too. But I need to know, like out loud, you're going to have to say out loud that this is something that you need to, grasp my attention of it so that I can then serve you that way. And, I wasn't getting the opportunity to even practice at bat. When I'm coming up to the plate, I'm just going to hit the home run and we finna roll on up out,
Absolutely.
But Lemoyne is, totally different in that. And I had no clue of what it was that he was needing, but it was because I wasn't hearing it. Like he wasn't saying it. And so I think, in communication, it's super important to be open about everything it is that you're feeling. And if your spouse has a different, communication style, then you need to lean in and try to figure out how can you pull it out. But I didn't know what he wanted, but I did notice that my husband was a little different because Lemoyne is not a very, like snappy or, irritable, type of person. If anybody gets, irritable and snappy, it's going to be me. And so I kind of noticed that, over the last week or so, Lemoyne was kind of, grumpy old man style. And I'm like, what I do to you? Like, what is going on? And so I said, dude, that's why I kind of pulled you. You brought the RV back for me or whatever. I said, man, you got about 10 minutes. It turned into about 30. Yeah. But I said, man, you got 10 minutes. I want to talk to you about something. I'm sure his heart was beating fast. Like, what you want?
I think every guy on the line.
Don't say I want to talk to you.
Man, I said, Lord have mercy. What happened to the air conditioner? What I done done?
I said, you know, and I'm just as sincere as can be. I said, have I done anything to you? Because you know, you've been really snappy with me lately, and I'm over here trying to love on you. What's wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on? And you know, we were able to get to the root of it. And although those conversations aren't necessarily fun to have, I think that it's super, super important as you build in not just your relationship, you know, but also in business that you have open dialogue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Strick. I'm with you, man. Just go and start talking, man. Don't tell me we need to talk, and especially don't text me we need to talk, because then I'm thinking the whole time like, what do we need to talk about?
I didn't want to just dive into the conversation. I wanted to let you know that this was something that I had been thinking about, and I was sincere, you know, about bringing up this communication issue.
It's like that, dun 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 dun. That's what it is.
But if I don't think if you go into like a hardcore conversation that like this is a heart conversation, you just start talking. Hey, listen about this communication situation.
You ain't got to say listen. You ain't got to listen. Hey, you know, I've been feeling, you know, this, you know, and I'm trying to understand why. You ain't got to.
I personally think that it's gonna be uncomfortable either way. I just wanted to set the atmosphere that I wanted to talk and that it was serious. Okay, so I get it, guys. If you don't want your wife to say, let's talk, then give us another. You know what I'm saying? Give us a good intro, because I don't know any other intro other than "Can we talk?"
Can we talk? No, I mean we just did it. We just just.
Okay. Well, if y'all have any suggestions, you can most definitely give it to us in the chat. But as a woman, the only way I know how to say it is, "Hey, we need to talk," or "Hey, can we try to figure out how to have this come?" I just need to know. We need help.
It's hard not to sing that song. It's hard. It's amazing the power of music, you know.
I know, man. I think we ate up communicate, but for us, I think that was probably one of our most challenging ones.
And that's the most crushing thing for most people.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime you're even if it's not a spouse partnership, right? If you just have a business partner, being able to communicate and understanding how to communicate and speak that other person's language, even though you're both speaking English, is a mind-blowing thing.
Yeah.
And I always use this example. I think they call it belugas or something like that, but it's these like eggs in the Asian community that if you give it to them, and it's like a underdeveloped chicken. It's like the beak and things like that are developed, but it's still in the shell. That is like a treasure for somebody, the highest form of respect to pay to them, right? But if you give that to me, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You just done gave me this, you know, whatever. But in their language, that means, or in their culture, that means, hey, I respect you. You are, you know, like, I give you the highest level of honor. Whereas to me, I would say, man, this is total disrespect, right? So understanding that form of communication is key, right? So when you're building your kingdom, when you're building your legacy, creating that culture, creating that language, and understanding the language of the people that's in your civilization. And what I mean by that is in your household, in your partnership, in your business is super important. Everybody's not going to conform to your language, right? You have to be humble enough to conform and understand the language of those people. You can set the atmosphere, but you cannot change the culture all immediately, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to be able to interject yourself into that and be able to then influence them to understand the ways of the kingdom.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah. You was preaching on that one.
Okay.
I was enjoying.
All right.
No, I think, you know, the communication piece probably is a hurdle for most couples that work in business together. You know, what they said.
She said Rodney does that to me, and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. I can imagine getting that from Rodney.
Yeah.
Rodney is he's the exterminator. Yeah. So I can imagine Rodney saying, hey, we need to talk. It's probably I would tremble too. But I think that being in business with your spouse, you know, not necessarily setting good communication boundaries, it really can be detrimental, not just in, you know, in your relationship, but in business as well. Like there's a lot of stuff that you need to talk about,
Yeah.
you know, when you're in business, right? Not just setting those roles and responsibilities, but there are going to be some tasks, you know, and high level things that you're going to need to discuss when you're in business. And if those communication boundaries aren't set, in my opinion, in the relationship first, then it puts a good bit of strain on the business relationship. So just like how Lamont is an indirect communicator, just in general, sometimes he indirectly communicates with the customers, you know, and what that was doing for us was putting unnecessary strain on, because if Lemoyne knew the answer was really no, it was out of our control, right? Based on the, you know, whatever restraints that we had inside of the company, Lemoyne would know that it was a strong no, but he'd say, let me get back to that.
Let me look into that for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
I'm gonna check it out and I'll let you know.
Right. But the answer was always,
it was no.
It was a no.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would get frustrated.
That was a soft no for me.
Soft no. When he say, let me get back to you on that means he's never going to call you back. That's what that means. And I was like, Lemoyne, you can't, like, our reputation is you're not gonna call him back. So you gotta call him back and say something. But what I realized though was I wasn't gonna force him to be that person. Like, he is just not about to run conflict head on like that. Unless I'm in danger and the girls are in danger, then he coming after you. But if it's him, you know, talking to a customer, absolutely not. Because he doesn't want to be the bearer of bad news. And I'm like, bring on the challenge. Right. And so because our communication styles were so different, what would end up happening was Lemoyne would be the one that would know that there was bad information. And then he kind of ease off into my office and kind of give me a whiff on it, hoping I would take the bait so that I would call the customer and tell them the bad news. And I was starting to get agitated because I'm like, man, why don't you call the customer? You know what I'm saying? Like I finally matured enough to realize that just wasn't his superpower, you know, and it was either, look, we can get these egos out of the way. And, you know, what would have been beautiful is, hey, Crystal, this is one of them situations. I'm going to need you to handle that. Go ahead, don't take that out.
Yeah, she started firing everybody. I didn't want to fire nobody.
I'm talking about, like, listen, I have the spirit of fire on me. Do you hear me? You will get fired. Do you hear me? So Lemoyne would be like, you know what I'm saying? He started telling me stuff that was going on so that I would get, you know, riled up about it so that I'll fire somebody. You know, and I'm like, dude, just tell me, right, what it is that you need me to do. Is it a bad customer that we need to get? Hey, this ain't our customer no more. And so once we realized that this was something that, you know, that was an issue for him, then it was much easier then for me to just step in and say, if this is one of them situations, I'll call him back, because I guarantee you I'm gonna tell him no. And it was because I was okay with delivering the truth. And sometimes we have to realize that the truth is not bad, right? The truth is just the truth.
Absolutely.
And in some instances, the truth that somebody else has to receive, it might be bad information for them, but it doesn't negate the fact that it's the truth. And so I just let it go. If I know that it's the truth and I'm not doing any harm, you know, or ill will to the customer, I'm going to call them and unfortunately give them the bad news. Hey, Mr. Customer, unfortunately, you've had 5 at-fault accidents and 2 DUIs. And the company's going to be dropping you in 30 days, and you're going to need to find you some coverage. Lemoyne's conversation would look like, man, I know you had a lot of accidents, but I'm gonna look into it and see if it's something I can do in underwriting. Sir.
Let me make sure all of them are accurate. Let me make sure that they've been recorded accurately, and I'll, you know, let make sure that there's no discrepancies as it relates to that. It could have been an error on our part, and if it is, then we'll make it right. But if it isn't, then, you know, but let me check.
But in the reality, there's absolutely nothing he can do. And I'm like, Lemoyne, the truth will do. But his communication style is not one to be that direct. And so
she's learned to give some soft no's though.
I give soft no's how? When? Who?
I don't know. You gave somebody a soft no the other day.
I
did. Yeah.
Oh, you must be rubbing off on me.
Yeah. Well, I rub on. I mean, yeah.
Your children on. They on live.
So like I was saying, the Bible says. Yeah, let's move to the next point.
That was it. That was the last one.
That was the last one. Okay.
So we got We got 4 points. Obviously, communication was our sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because that's one that we're still growing and becoming in. I would say we no longer have an F. We probably have like a strong like B minus.
Yeah. I say that.
Yeah, we're gonna get to an A+ when you walk up to me and say, "Hey, Krista, this is what I want to do. I'm doing it," and that's just that.
Okay, great.
We're gonna get to A. We're gonna see if you can grow if you can grow to that. But I think that for us, it's okay, for us to grow and become together. That's the fun part of the journey.
Yeah.
But the communication piece for sure, for us was definitely a sticker. So we're gonna go back over for you guys, just in case if some of you were just joining and you didn't get the first few. Oh, look, that's so beautiful. Chrissy just did the recap for us. The first one, we're gonna set clear roles and responsibilities, right? We're gonna make sure that each other understands what are our roles, not just at home, but inside of our work worlds as well. Like, what are you doing in the office? What am I doing in the office? What am I setting up? Like, I automatically know. When we get ready to go live on here, my role and responsibility is to set up all the technology.
Yeah.
Now, I might can ask Lamorne to go get something from another room and bring it in here, but I'm guaranteeing you, Lamorne is not hooking. Like, I'm the IT person, right?
And not to be restricted by gender,
right?
Don't allow somebody else, the way that they set their kingdom up, to dictate how your kingdom is set up, right? Crystal has horrible allergies. She'd be messed up 3 days if I asked her to sweep, right? So
I would be quite upset if Lamorne asked me to sweep. I don't sweep.
Yeah, so now we hire somebody to sweep, but you know what I'm saying? It's things like that can make a difference. But if you're looking at the traditional standard, or you listening to your granddad, and you're like, boy, you in there sweeping that floor,
right? I mean, before, thankfully, we were able to afford it now. But before we was able to afford it, I would cut the grass. And at our other house, I would cut the grass. And the morning would come back because I still don't know how to use weed eater, but I'm not gonna learn how to do that. But I would cut the front and the backyard, and when he would come home after he got off, then he would do all of the edging and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't mind, cutting the grass. I used it as a workout, like that was good for me. It was a really nice workout. I burned a lot of calories cutting that grass, but I didn't care that, most men cut grass, what I'm saying? Like, that ain't, who cares? So I think that it's super important that you, that what matters to you and what doesn't, but setting those roles and responsibilities is super important. The second one we went over was establish a dedicated work area. I think that's super important, especially if you work, in home, you don't have your work everywhere, but if you work together, right? What we did discuss was, making sure that work was work. Like, you don't, if you got an office with employees and customers, make sure it stays work up in there, right? And no personal issues bleeding off into that. And then the third one was set dedicated work and personal time, right? Set that time if that's something that's super high on your priority list. And like we transparently said, that's something that we're still kind of juggling through. But as we grow, we decide if we want to decrease. I'm in a season right now where I'm decreasing my work hours. And Lemoyne's he just likes to kind of keep the the same steady pace work hours all the time, and I'm a little different in that. And then number 4 was the one that we talked about for a good bit here, which was keep communication open
and honest,
and the most importantly, honest. Okay, and so that was pretty good. I think that was a pretty good boundaries. I think that everyone should make sure that they keep in the forefront, right?
Absolutely. I think those are some things that'll definitely help maintain your love and your business, right? Yeah. I definitely think that will play a major role in it, because we've seen it, and I think most of us have seen it. Yeah. That could be the demise of someone's relationship, someone's business, and again, this is universal. This could be in relationship, this can be in any relationship, business relationship, or like marital relationship. Communication and things like that.
I think all 4 of those I think go hand in hand, whether you're in business or not. Like those boundary tips, they should work well for just life in general. But hey, we do want to shout out, we got our first official sponsor here tonight. So we want to shout out the Creative Meal for producing our show. And we got some upcoming events and
Yep.
coaching programs that's coming out in the pipeline here. So you guys want to make sure that you're staying locked in and tuned in as we start to roll out some exciting pieces and parts. But hey, if you have a big vision and you need someone to help figure that out, we're gonna need you to reach out to the Creative Meal. Chrissy's gonna put all her information in there, but you can contact her at thecreativemeal.co. That's THE creativemeal.co.
MIL.
Two
Okay.
L's. Two L's. It's 2 L's. She got it in there. There it is.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
cool.
she got it in there.
Yeah. Also, guys, like and share this. We want to continue to grow the community, just to create an environment that is conducive for us to grow as business owners, as partners in business, as a married couple in business. So if you hey, like and share it with someone, and if you know a couple that has inspired you, by all means, send the information our way, and we will continue to grow and bring on guests as well, so that we can get perspectives from other people as well, right?
Yep.
Because this is what the community is about, is bringing all the synergy together and just being a catalyst and creating a platform for us to do that. It's not enough of that in our community, or that we can connect to. So let's do that. Let's be the change.
Absolutely. And speaking of guests, we got two of our favorite people coming on next week.
Yeah.
We got Edwin and Sean Strickland. I see Edwin in there in the chat causing all kinds of problems tonight. But listen, I think you're gonna
you don't want to miss that one.
Very well blessed next week when you join us for Pastor Edwin and Pastor Sean, as some call them, but they're going to be dropping some really good nuggets on us next week. I'm excited to hear. But yeah, they're going to be guests on next week's show. So please be sure to tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to have some more good conversations. So we appreciate your time. We don't take it lightly that you take an hour out of your schedule to come and hang with us on Thursday nights. And so we're super, super excited about this journey, and we're looking forward to having you with us along the way. So you guys have a good night, and thank you.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.